Hey, 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 everybody. Welcome to a bonus live stream and at a Euro-friendly time, as I see some of you have noted in the comments already as we're kicking it off here. Let's go ahead and flip over so we start having the comments come in as we are live streaming here. I am very happy to be here with you guys today. I really love live streaming and I love the interaction with you guys and all of that. I got a lot to go over with y'all. We have a lot here, and the reason why I kind of dropped everything and did this today is I got some mail, and I got one of my viewers, one of my critics out there, sent me some mail, some Scientology mail, and this really kind of gave me an immediate picture of where things are at. And it's not good. It's not good at all for Scientology right now. Just to cut right to the chase and get right to it, right? It's, you know, this is the current state of Scientology. And this was, of course, very appropriate for right now because Scientology is coming back in the media because the Danny Masterson retrial is happening. The second, go around on this. And we have high hopes. I have to admit, honestly, my expectations are a little low on this, but I have high hopes that justice will be seen for Masterson's victims on this. Always wanted that. Never wanted anything else but that. And of course, talking about Scientology is just one thing I do now because it makes for one of the most interesting case studies, you could say, of what I do talk about a lot, which is, of course, coercive control, recovery from coercive control, and cults, and what are cults and destructive cults and all that kind of stuff. What are these groups all about? Well, they're about bad things. They're about bad deeds. And never before have we seen such examples in their own mailings of opposite world. They say one thing and it's really the other way, and they keep, they're just the lies and the nonsense and the half truths and the bullshit. It just comes through to somebody like me who was, who lived in that world for decades, to know what's going on behind the scenes, to have some idea of what's going on behind the scenes, to know what that culture is, and the fact that that culture doesn't change. It's not something that is going to just disappear, or they're going to turn on a dime, or they're going to suddenly become a kinder, gentler version of themselves. That's just not how Scientology, and that's just not how destructive cults work. It's built into their DNA that they have to be awful. Because they are solving the leadership has certain problems to solve in order to keep the money coming in order to keep the doors open, in order to keep things going. It's, it's built on a base of, it's built on a base of lies. It's built on a base of nonsense. Scientology is pseudoscientific garbage. And so how do you keep selling that year after year, decade after decade? How do you keep bringing people in, convincing them it's true? Well, there's ways to do that. And the ways to do that are Lifton's 8 points, the things that we talk about here, where it's environmental or milieu control, and it's confession culture, and it's reporting on each other, and it's creating this very authoritarian framework, and then draping it in a lot of velvet. You got that iron fist, and you got a whole lot of velvet around that thing, making it look like it's really shiny and nice and very soft and very, pleasing to the eye. And it feels really good when you touch it until you get hit in the face with it, and then you're like, oh my God. Yeah, that's what's really going on there, is there's really this concrete fist just beating on you mercilessly. But you as a cult member, you're in a position where your emotions and your morality and your whole worldview is so taken with the truth of it that you deny that fact of getting beaten mercilessly until one day you finally just can't deny it anymore. And that's kind of how it tends to go in Scientology and lots of other groups. So I thought with the Masterson trial, picking back up, jury selection happening, Tony reporting on that, and others as well, and that kind of gonna become a thing. I thought, well, how timely that one of my critics out there sent me these mailings, and I went through it last night, and I was like, I don't do a lot of reaction videos. I do content that tries to educate and inform on destructive cults and on coercive control. But I thought, well, what a great case study and what a great way of breaking this down for people, because we're going to be talking about, Scientology a lot these days. So just a couple points here, a couple little things. Here's a little flyer out of Los Angeles. And this is really interesting because they are actually comparing themselves now. I mean, you want to talk about the bubble world of Scientology and the sort of, what do we mean by a bubble world? Well, we mean that there's a culture, cult comes from the word culture. And culture is a whole set of values and ideas and principles and imagery and symbolism and all these things that wrap up into creating a kind of a unique and distinct worldview and way of approaching life and way of thinking about things. And in a destructive cult, they very much concentrate on creating that bubble world, us versus them. That's very much part of a destructive cult model, is that it's, we're the good guys, we have the truth, we have the sacred knowledge, and everybody else who isn't as good as us, isn't as wise, as smart, as intellectual, or as saved, as spiritual, as aware as we are. That's all part of the package. And that us versus them sets up divisions. It sets up an antagonism towards anyone who's not you, not part of your group. And then you start telling yourself, and in this bubble world, all kinds of lies and nonsense about how good you've got it in this crazy world where you're getting beat on all the time. I mean, it's that crazy. It really is. Here's an example, right? Just one stupid example, but, come to the Pacifica Cafe for the best cuisine and coffee in Los Angeles. This is what they're promoting now. This is a Sea Org outfit, okay? The Pacifica Cafe is a little 20-foot by 20-foot space, and now they have some outdoor stuff, and it's right next to the galley where they cook all the Sea Org food. And I was there for 17 years. And that food is shit. Not because they want it to be. The Sea Org who are there really desperately want to serve good food to the crew and want the crew to be happy with the food, but they never have enough money to do it. And this Pacifica Cafe is now is this sort of idea to make some money for the estates branch in the Sea Org there, the people who run the grounds and the buildings and all of that. This was a bright idea to make money by offering, better than average food to the Scientology public who come for services to the Big Blue base. That's where this is, the Pacifica base. And yet now, now it can't just be that it's good. It can't just be that it's acceptable, which it barely is. No, over the years, the Pacifica Cafe has established itself as one of the best spots for cuisine and coffee in Los Angeles. Now, if you're a foodie and you know Los Angeles, you know that there is some amazing food to be had in Los Angeles. The Pacifica Cafe ain't on anybody's Michelin star list. And they say that's no exaggeration. And in this city, it's no small feat either. But we have a purpose to give our public the best. And in order to make that a reality, we had to refine our skills to compete and then beat the competition, said competition being some of the trendiest and most sought after bistros and cafes in the world. Okay, thank you very much. I mean, come on, all right. Just checking in every now and again on the comments here as we're going. Yeah, all right. Now, this one here is a flyer also from the Pacifica base. And it says here, it's time. Now this is going to give a little synopsis of what we're going to cover in the rest of this thing, okay? Because I got a lot to show you guys. It's time. You're invited to watch the epic series of historic briefings, keeping the show on the road. Raw, unplugged, unlike any events you've ever seen, right? And what is this? This is a series of 10 briefings from Chairman of the Board, David Miscavige. And this guy is going to feature a lot today, because when I say that Scientology is a money-making scam designed to enrich one man, I'm not joking. That is not hyperbole. All of it, all the buildings, all the services, all the books, all the lectures, all the nonsense, all the abuse, everything. It's all designed to do one thing: glorify and enrich one dude. First, that dude was L. Ron Hubbard. Hubbard died in 1986, a long time ago. David Miscavige took over, very forcefully took over. And it's now all about him. And you'll see, I mean, visually, it is literally all about him. And so the services, and they don't promote services anymore. They don't promote going even into OT hardly. What they promote is come see David Miscavige talk about how wonderful he and Scientology is. And this little flyer here kind of exemplifies that. So it sort of synopsizes kind of a lot of what we're going to talk about today. When he says, while the world was on pause, this is referring to the whole COVID thing, Chairman of the Board, RTC, was gearing up for global expansion. Over the course of 2 years, he delivered a series of briefings at Flag, providing an overview of all that had been accomplished and a preview of the future. Now, these epic briefings are available to be viewed at the Pacifica Bridge. So get ready to get up to speed on all the news of our global movement. Get pumped up with pride as you hear about how we've served communities around the globe. Take a world tour of ideal orgs poised for takeoff, and celebrate all that has been done to pave the way to the next golden age. I mean, you know, I think we all know that this whole ideal org real estate scam is all about just getting real estate and valued real estate, which I'm sure serves Miscavige's purposes in some nefarious way. And they say here, you know, but then they have to, like, you know, this program has been going on for 20 years now. 20 years. So you would think that if this ideal org program was going to result in something more than ideal morgues, and that's pretty much the best way to describe these things, is they are empty buildings with nothing really happening in them, certainly not expanding Scientology, and certainly not taking over global regions or city centers, or, you know, they're just not doing it. So they have to word this as we are poised for takeoff. You're going to hear a lot of language like that, you know, when you go through these materials. And and then they give a couple little testimonials here from people who are watching these events, right? Oh my God, it's so amazing. I'm wiping tears from my eyes, right? The world is finally waking up to what Scientology can do to improve conditions everywhere. Do y'all feel waking up to how Scientology can improve conditions everywhere? Is that how we're feeling today? I'm amazed at the volume of what COB has accomplished. It's incredible, a whole new order of magnitude. It felt like walking into a staff meeting with COB. I really felt part of the group more than ever. His calm was so direct, personal to me. All right. Sure. And then here's a little flyer for ASHO, the American St. Hill organization. It's go time. We're not even going to get into that, because here's the thing. 10 years out of Scientology and 20 years after the fact of the St. Hill organizations basically being turned into glorified city-level churches. It's unthinkable. If there was one, even, if people have asked me sometimes, if L. Ron Hubbard came back, what would he think? What would he think about what David Miscavige has done? There is one thing, just one thing that Miscavige would be killed for immediately and at once, despite every other thing he's done. And there's a laundry list of stuff that he has changed and done to make Scientology even worse. But if there was, but just this one thing is getting rid of what's called the St. Hill Special Briefing Course, the Class 6 Auditor Course. That used to be, 20 years ago, that used to be the ultimate thing you could do as a public Scientologist to learn the entire chronological history of Scientology, according to L. Ron Hubbard, right? You go through all these lectures, there's hundreds of them. The briefing course consisted of something on the order of about 500 lectures from Hubbard, as well as all the books, all of those red volumes of all the bulletins from the beginning all the way through, every bulletin, tons of policies, tons of issues, tons of articles that Hubbard had written. All of that you have to study. It takes a year full time. Maybe most people were actually about a year and a half to get through that thing. If you were grinding it out 9 to 5, most people would do a shorter schedule than that and would take a couple years, 5 years to get through it. And it was big and it was weighty and it was a level of dedication and devotion to trying to become the very best auditor you could possibly be. You could do almost anything as an auditor, as a Scientology auditor, in terms of what you could deliver. All that's gone. That entire course is gone. It hasn't been delivered. And that was Hubbard's pride and joy. That course was what he personally delivered at St. Hill in England from 1960 to 1966. Took him 6 years to deliver the whole thing. And that's where all those lectures come from, is that time period. Miscavige has just wiped that off the map entirely. You couldn't do the briefing course if you wanted to. If you paid them $1 million right now, they couldn't deliver it to you. Just gone. This is what is called in Scientology a tech degrade. And it's a high crime. It's a suppressive act. And it's a very, very bad thing. All right. So that's just one silly little example. So when I see promo coming out of the American St. Hill organization, ASHO, that whole building exists for one basic reason, which is to deliver the briefing course. And for 20 years, all it's been is basically a glorified city-level church. So, thank you very much for that super chat, Broken Dishes. That's awesome. Very, very generous of you. Yeah, that's for sure. Definitely true. Gaslighting and cognitive dissonance are very real, especially in the world of Scientology, which is why it makes such a great case study for us. Now, the big central focus today is going to be on this guy, okay? And this is why I can talk with such authority today about the current state of Scientology, because it's all reflected in here. This is the official Scientology publication of International Scientology News, ISN. Okay, you can see that up here. And I went to the International Scientology News. And this is issue number 80. Latest and greatest. This is brand spanking new right off the press. Now, one thing I'll notice, one thing you might not notice, is that this publication is a couple inches smaller than it used to be. Maybe not a big deal. Maybe something, but just something I noticed. Because this is centrally printed by their dissemination and promotion center in Los Angeles. They have a whole building with its gigantic, huge printing press. It's impressive. It's huge. It's like bigger than my house. And they roll these things off by the thousands, right? By the tens of thousands. And it's just interesting to me that they're making them smaller these days. That generally tends to indicate things are getting smaller, not bigger. But it's all about expansion, okay? So what I did is I scanned this entire book, magazine, and I thought we might walk through some of it today, okay? Because this was going to give us a window into not only the state of Scientology as it is, but also what Scientologists are being told by the top management. I mean, every page of this, every word of this is approved by David Miscavige personally. You got to know that. Every single big international piece that goes out doesn't go out without his stamp of approval on it. So he has looked through all of this, and you're going to see that this is all about glorifying David Miscavige, much more than it's about glorifying Scientology, which I find fascinating now, because it didn't used to be so obvious. Let's put it that way. So, international Scientology news, unending expansion. Let's go ahead and go to the page where I can start showing you this, and you can see there's the cover. Unending expansion, the ultimate gift presented at an epic birthday celebration. Now, this was presented, or this is mostly focused around the L. Ron Hubbard. Let's go back to me for a second. This is mostly focused on the birthday event, okay? And this is L. Ron Hubbard's birthday, which is March 13th. And every year they have an event to glorify L. Ron Hubbard and his birthday and celebrate him as an individual. And over the COVID time, they weren't doing any events at all. So this was kind of a catch-up event. And the first, maybe not the first, but one of the first sort of big events that they were putting on. These events used to be held at the Shrine Auditorium in Los Angeles before David Miscavige went into hiding in Clearwater and wouldn't let his whereabouts be known because he was avoiding process servers. I mean, that's the fact, is David Miscavige hides. He's a little craven, cowardly man, and he won't go out in public. He will not be confronted by anybody for any reason. He's got security detail. He's got, paid professionals who do that, not just Sea Org, but he also has another layer of Sea Org security, and he hides out on Sea Org bases, and that's pretty much where he hangs out these days. You never see him out and about doing anything. And that's pretty sad. It's pretty tragic existence, really. But, he deserves it. I mean, if anybody deserves a tragic existence, it's that guy. So what are we looking at here? Well, let's go. And we're looking at this event at Flag. And like I said, I wanted to make this point that they used to be held at the Shrine Auditorium. Now, I know because I used to literally put butts in seats in that auditorium. That was one of the jobs I had during events, is that hall holds something on the order of about 5,000. I think it's 4,800, something like that. I'd have to look it up, but this is from memory. But it's about 5,000 people. And we could pack that place, back in the day, we could pack it. We had, not standing room only, but we had it filled all the way up to the rafters. That was many, many years ago. I don't know that they could fill the Shrine Auditorium now. I wonder about that. And you'll see here from some of these pictures, let's go ahead and get into it, that he's giving events in much smaller spaces now. So we're just going to thumb through this thing. So the final component to planetary clearing. Oh, are we definitely going to talk about this? Ron, the epic birthday celebration, right? And they show the Clearwater buildings all lit up bright and everything, lots and lots of lights, and look at all that amazing lightage. Photoshop's beautiful, isn't it? All right, so then we go into the news, all right? And I'm just going to flip through here. Now, I don't necessarily expect you'll be able to, you guys aren't going to be able to read this, but I'm going to read little bits from the magazine as we're going. This picture was interesting to me because it's just, they do these public events. And this picture is here's the caption for it. During a special ceremony, church representatives unveil the official plaque listing the founding church of Washington, D.C. on the National Register of Historic Places. And they have a whole article here paying homage to L. Ron Hubbard and the historical sites that he was part of, right? They have a picture of his place in Bayhead, New Jersey, there at the top. The bottom picture is Phoenix, Arizona, the Camelback House, I think they call it. And yeah, L. Ron Hubbard's Camelback home. And this is apparently this is a photo of the Phoenix Theater Company commemorating the 70th anniversary of Hubbard's first Congress, delivered at the Little Theater in 1953. And then the picture on top there is the mayor of Bayhead in New Jersey bestowing the key to the city to somebody connected with Scientology there. And that's the house where Hubbard wrote Dianetics, the Modern Science of Mental Health. Okay. So they have purchased these properties, the Church of Scientology has, and they have restored them so that they look something like what they did when Hubbard occupied them as museum properties. But here's the thing about these properties is I've actually made or tried to make appointments to go visit them. And if you're not a Scientologist in good standing, they're really not very interested in you coming around. That's a fact. These pictures notwithstanding, that was my experience with it. And they are very closed off. They are very secretive, and they are not welcoming. You know, they're opposite of welcoming and opening. So these photo ops are really just photo ops. They're just, you know, most of the time these places are closed down. There's not like a lot of, these aren't museums where there's a constant stream of traffic going through them, but that's what they want you to think. You know, that's the whole point of these photo ops, is to convince Scientologists that everything is glorified and wonderful, and L. Ron Hubbard is being paid. This is the wording they use, that these people are paying homage to L. Ron Hubbard. I mean, okay, cool. So let's go back to the mag here. So that's how it opens, right? Is here's our little bit to L. Ron Hubbard. Here's our little sort of thumbnail acknowledgement of the founder of this entire movement, with some museum pieces that people are going to, like a theater company, or, you know, now we've registered it as a historic place with the U.S. government, and oh, isn't that so amazing? Not really. It's really not that amazing. All right, so then we move on to a future of unending expansion. And here's where we start glorifying Miscavige. This is the first of many photos you're going to see in this room of David Miscavige on that stage. And it says Ron in the background, but you're going to notice a lot of glorification of David Miscavige here. That's very, very important for this whole thing to work, for this entire sort of bubble world culture to exist. It has to revolve around the charismatic leader, and that leader is very definitely David Miscavige. So what is this little notice the little fine print there? Epic, exhilarating, inspiring. Right? They're just dropping these words like this is how you're supposed to feel while looking at this. You're supposed to feel that this is epic. This is a tiny room holding, maybe, you'll see the whole picture, maybe 200 or 300 people are in this room. I don't call that epic. I've done public speaking engagements to more people. Exhilarating, inspiring, maybe. This is the birthday event we've been waiting for. All right, so this is a catch-up event where they didn't do events for a few years, and they present these awards. Now, let me tell everybody real fast. The birthday event is not just signifying L. Ron Hubbard's birthday. There's an entire production game that Scientology internationally plays focused around L. Ron Hubbard's birthday, and it goes from March 13th to March 13th every year. And during that birthday game year, it's divided into 4 quarters. And each Scientology organization is tasked with expanding to 5.4 times what they were back at the beginning of the year. So if you were producing 1 new start a week or 1 course completion a week, then you are expected by the end of that year to 5.4x your statistics, meaning you are now supposed to have 5 or 6 new starts or 5 or 6 course completions. You see how that expansion is supposed to be in that ratio. On the other hand, if you're an organization that is producing 10 course completions a week, then your 5.4x target is going to be proportional to that, which is not going to be 15 or 20. It's going to be 54 course completions by the end of the year. You got a 5.4x whatever you're producing. So all the statistics in Scientology organizations keep track of a couple hundred statistics, from book sales to course completions to new starts to introductory service completions to well done auditing hours, how many hours of auditing were delivered in the week. Students on courses keep track of student points. They actually accumulate points while they're studying, and they turn in those points, and the total point value for that course room every day is added up for the week, for the year, etc., right? So they want more student points out of you. Oh, thank you, Diary of Anxious Depressive. Thank you for that super chat. Appreciated. Okay, so all these statistics are being kept, and those are supposed to go up, up, up. That's what that whole expansion thing is all about. It's measured in numbers. And there have been, more instances over the years of false reports, of just inflated numbers, exaggerated numbers, totally made up numbers, in order to win this birthday game. It's all focused around winning this thing and getting this big prestigious announcement at the end of the year at this birthday event of who the winners of the birthday game are. Okay, so that's kind of how that, in a nutshell, that's how that works. The organizations compete internationally, but they're divided into geographic zones. So there are there's missions, there's the city level churches, which are called Class 5 orgs. There's the Sea Org orgs, which compete amongst themselves. And there is the geographic regions, the Western United States, the Eastern United States, Canada, Latin America. Those are the 4 Western Hemisphere regions. You have the UK as a region. You have Europe as a region. Australia, New Zealand, ANZO, that region. All these areas are sort of divvied up that way. Okay, so that's how Scientology organizes itself. And that's how they play the different leagues of the birthday game. Okay, so let's go ahead and flip back here. And so all this business about expansion is all about those numbers. While the rest of the world may have agreed to go on pause, we never stopped. Now, I mean, they closed the orgs. They closed them. They didn't just say don't come in for a little while, or we'll reduce the services. During COVID, they shut down. So it's weird to me that anybody in the Scientology bubble world can be so taken with Miscavige and with the culture of that bubble world that they can fall for a line like that. And the truth is, a lot of them aren't anymore. And the main theme of this, I think you'll see emerging from this whole thing, is please come back. Please, we're open now. Please come back. I mean, that's kind of the messaging here. That's kind of where they're at. Is they're like, no, we're open again. But they can't say it that way because that would maybe admit that maybe bad decisions were made. And maybe those bad decisions were made from the very top. And maybe that means David Miscavige was wrong about something. And if there is one golden rule in every single destructive cult you will ever come across, it is that the leader can never, ever be wrong. Ever. So they have to spin. They have to spin every single thing so that it's always the leader is inerrant. Okay, so Got a lot of viewers today. This is awesome. All right. So while the rest of the world agreed to go on pause, we never stopped. And here you can see a larger picture, a more panoramic view of this event hall. And as you can, and it kind of doesn't really go on that, on the left there. You can see it kind of cuts off. It doesn't go back a whole lot further. I believe this is a space in Clearwater at the, this is in at Flag. This is their event hall there. They couldn't even set up or go over to an external hall. I think in Clearwater they usually use Ruth Eckert Hall, which holds significantly more people than is pictured here. So no, they just decided to do it in the Flag Clearwater building. Again, why? Well, maybe it has something to do with the fact that Miscavige was avoiding service this whole time. So, birthday game celebration. Thousands of Scientologists from more than 40 countries on 6 continents were drawn to Flag to pay tribute to LRH and present him with the gift he most wished for, expansion. Does that hall look like it's holding thousands of people to you? Because it doesn't look like it to me. And not a single photo in this magazine is going to show you thousands of people. Yet all throughout the text, throughout this entire magazine, it talks about thousands and even millions being directly touched and affected by Hubbard and Scientology and David Miscavige's genius. Mr. Miscavige said he was especially pumped because I can finally say we are all back. Well, if this is all of them, that kind of says something, doesn't it? All right, let's see where we go with this. Here's another picture, next page, and I'm just flipping through the pages. I literally went through and scanned every page of this magazine. I'm just flipping through them for you here. So here's the next picture. Big, huge, little tiny column of text, big, huge picture of Miscavige. Get used to that. You're going to see more of it. Okay, let's see what we got here. See if I got any juicy quotes on this page. Oh, yes, all the hundreds of awards bestowed upon the founders since the beginning of the decade. He then moved on to the hundreds of millions of lives impacted through LRH social betterment programs and circled back to the growing numbers of people coming into orgs and moving up the bridge. And this is one of the ways that then they get into here, one of the ways that they mess with numbers to mess with people's heads. I don't know if y'all, pay much attention to this kind of thing like I do in terms of how people process numbers and information. But people are really bad at processing numbers. They're like championship level bad. Most people really suck at it. And so it's easy to throw numbers at people that sound or look or feel impressive, but really aren't. They really aren't impressive at all. And here's an example of what I'm talking about. So here we make this statement that there's a growing number of people going into orgs and missions around the world, and that hundreds of millions, they said here, have been touched by L. Ron Hubbard through all the front groups. Applied Scholastics, Way to Happiness, Narconon, Criminon, all these front group programs they have, right? With a release or clear every 8 minutes, an academy completion every 30 minutes, an OT completion every 60 minutes, and an ever-expanding universe of ideal orgs in the making, you have proof positive that Scientology has continued its forward momentum. That doesn't prove anything except for the fact that they're barely scratching any surface at all of forward movement into this society. An OT completion every 60 minutes? So 24 a day, right? 1 an hour. I mean, I don't know. Somebody want to do the math on that? Is that making huge strides forward into society? I'm pretty willing to bet any amount of money right now that the mortality rate on this planet is significantly higher than 24 people a day making it on the OT levels. In other words, there's people dying off way faster than these guys are building momentum into the society. But it sounds, to Scientologists at least, so impressive that they're making an OT once every hour and academy completions once every 30 minutes. Wow, that's so impressive. No, it's not. It's a blatant admittance, whatever the, it's basically saying we suck and we are not moving forward into this society in any noticeable way. But how do you spin that? You come up with ways of phrasing it like this. Loaded language is one of those lifting points where how do you control people? How do you make people think one thing when you're doing something else? How do you get people to agree to be controlled? You load the language. You make the language, that says one thing, but it really means something else. Right? Or you get them thinking along particular ways that are completely wrong, completely pseudoscientific, let's say. Here's an example of what we're talking about, right? It's worth pointing out. All right, let's go back to the text here. So, all right, so that is our first round. Then we go into, yes, here's a wonderful photo of somebody somewhere. Oh, did I miss? Oh, I might have, yes. Let me see here. Oh, there we go. That's the picture I was looking for. Sorry there, guys. These are some action shots of probably one of the 20 or 30 standing ovations that they carried out during that event. And you can see there in the top right, there's Tom Cummins, and you can see, I think that's Megan Rafalco in the top left picture there, and some other, there's Jenna and Bodie Elfman in the bottom left of that top picture there. And I don't know who these other Scientology luminaries are because there are no captions to any photos in this magazine. You wouldn't, unless you knew who these people are or what significance they hold, they're not going to point them out in the magazine, in the text of the magazine. And that includes the winners of the birthday game later on, by the way. I have no idea who some of these people are. Okay, so those are your action shots there, though, from the birthday event. And yes, here's another shot. Oh, yes, and this is what I wanted to give you guys on this one is some of the feedback from it, right? This was what some of the Scientologists who went to that event, they are all surveyed after the event as to what they thought, what they had to say about it. And here are some of the quotes. So if you're wondering, the reason I want to point this out is if you're wondering if Scientologists right now are like, hey, what the hell, or what's going on, or why are we, no, they're not doing that at all. And these guys at Flag, of course, are going to be your cream of the crop Scientologists, your top flight, heavy hitter, big money donor types. And so these are quotes from those people. COB totally rocks. He's a turbocharged leader, truly amazing. The future of Scientology is impressive. With the FEBC and all the orgs, we are unstoppable. And we'll get into that FEBC thing in a few minutes. Tonight was out of this world. It was so deep. The expansion COB laid out and the plans for the future literally blew my mind. Now, let me comment on that real fast, because this is a really kind of an important point. The future. I am so impressed by what is coming in the future. That's not a small point. One of the big things in Scientology that really keeps Scientologists going is the idea that they are going to eventually clear the planet. That everybody's going to get on board. That everybody's going to become a Scientologist. That this is going to be the biggest thing ever. And they all kind of know right now that it ain't anything even close to that. But that's what they have to get pumped. So they can't get pumped up on what's happening right now. They go down to their local church. They even go to Flag. It's not a lot happening. It's not a lot going on, except they're being asked for more and more and more money and get on service and go, go, go. And get your family in and get your friends in, right? Rah, do it. Now, right? That's kind of what they hear when they go down to the orgs. But they look around and there's really not a lot happening. So there's not a lot of dopamine hits there, in other words, right? There's not a lot of like awe-inspiring, euphoria-creating things going on in the real world right in front of them. So what do they have to cling to like a life raft, right? What do they have to cling to like that door that Leonardo DiCaprio was holding on to at the end of Titanic, right? What are they holding on to that gives them that ego boost and that pump is the future. It's the future. Oh, look at what the future's going to hold. It's going to be so amazing. Oh, the COB is so brilliant for all these future plans. Well, if you look to the past of Scientology and you look to the present of Scientology, there is nothing to be impressed by. So they have to keep looking to the future and creating this sort of reality in their minds that this is Scientology now. It's this weird sort of time dilation almost that Scientologists have to do. And I speak from personal experience here. This is where I'm talking about this from is, everything's going to be so amazing. Let me give you more money to make that future a reality. They're selling futures, you see. Tonight was fantastic and exhilarating. It's been amazing, magical, and unexpected. There's so much excitement to be here. Tonight was unbelievable. Yeah. Oh, yeah, here's another one about this future business, right? The new season launch for the Scientology Network. This is Scientology TV, which we'll also be showing you. The new season launch for the Scientology Network was invigorating and another demonstration of the impact Scientology has in creating a religious movement. We are the answer, and we are putting it out there big and bold. I could take that quote, lift it, and put it all the way back in the 80s and 90s because we were saying the same shit back then. We were saying the exact same things. And it just kind of popped off the page at me when I saw that, and that's why I wanted to share that with you guys. Yeah, you guys are tracking with this. All right, so let's go back to the magazine here. All right, and we'll start getting into some of the specifics of what Miscavige was briefing on, okay? And the first one is this training for an ideal org, okay? A team of executives graduate from the most important training program in our history and prepare to head back to their orgs. Chairman of the board, RTC, highlights the significance of the golden age of administration. It brings us closer to our goal of a cleared planet. All right, and again, little bit of text, great big spread of David Miscavige. Notice that? That's a theme you should get used to because it's going to keep repeating throughout this magazine. Great big spread of David Miscavige, little tiny text. And what is this? Okay, let me show you first. Here is a photo of a course room. And you notice everybody at every table is hooked up to an e-meter. There's all these people whose backs are to the camera who are operating e-meters. Those are Mark 8 e-meters, the latest and greatest. And those people in the blue vests holding the cans all the way back down the line there are students. And they are studying to be executives of Scientology organizations. And they are doing a highly confidential program called the FEBC. And I'm going to read this. I'm going to read this little bit to you here. The toughest course in Scientology. This is what the text in the top left corner says. The centerpiece of the FEBC, and that stands, by the way, for Flag Executive Briefing Course, and I'll give you more on that in a minute, is the centerpiece of the FEBC is the 12 L. Ron Hubbard Confidential Flag Executive Briefing Course lectures. The course also includes the management series. Everything is studied 3 times through. Every lecture, every issue. The first time with method 2 word clearing, which is what everybody's doing on these e-meters. There are 9 forms of word clearing, and I'll tell you about method 2. The second time star rated, and the third is fast flow. Nearly 800 executives are now at Flag to train on this program. All right. This is the great white hope for Scientology right now. All the beans are invested in this executive training program. And it's going to flop. It's going to flop huge. And the reason I can say that with such certainty is because every training program Miscavige has done from 1996 forward, starting from the very first golden age of tech, and there have been 4 or 5 full international training evolutions. That's the word they use in Scientology. I think it's in the military term. There have been 4 or 5 massive training projects carried out at Flag internationally for all the orgs, and every single organization on the planet, Sea Org and Class 5, had to send trainees to Flag to do the training for technical training, chaplain training, more technical training, basics training. Every one of them was supposed to end up with a cleared planet. Each time. This is the key to unlock the door to infinite expansion for Scientology. This training program, and blood, sweat, and tears were shed to get those trainees to Flag from every single org, ripped off the staff, did whatever it took to make it happen because, God damn it, this is the most important thing ever. And this program is going to blow the socks off everybody, and it's going to change Scientology internationally, and everything is going to be beautiful and wonderful, and boundless, hordes of people will come flooding into our churches as a result of these people being trained. So, forgive me for my doubts that this is about the 6th or 7th, actually, if I go back earlier than 95, because it started with Key to Life back in 1991, which I did as a Santa Barbara staff member. Every one of these things was supposed to blow the socks off the world and change Scientology forever, and not one of them did. Every one of them actually just made things worse. That's hard to believe, but it's true. Every one actually resulted in less Scientology being delivered, less people coming into the churches, and less people going clear in OT. It's true. I lived through it. I administered it. I managed it. I mean, these training things were my baby when I was a Sea Org member. As the technical aide for West US, my job was to send people to Flag. I used to keep up grids in Excel of names and where they were at on all the prerequisites they had to meet to get to Flag in the first place. And then it was up to Flag to train them and send the teams back. And there were supervisors, there were auditors, there were word clearers, there were ethics officers, there were chaplains. Every post, all kinds of jobs were highly, specially, technically trained at the Clearwater base and sent back as teams of people who were going to just blow the doors open. And they never blew the doors open, ever. But here we go again. This time with administrators, the golden age of administration. And earlier on in the magazine, it had said, the final component to planetary clearing. This program. So what is this program? Well, just to give it to you briefly, the Flag Executive Briefing course was originally held on Flag, which was a boat that Hubbard was on. It was the flagship. It was the one that he was on. And so it was called Flag. That's where the term comes from. And from the flagship. And they would deliver services there. That was where the original place people would go in order to do the OT levels. And that was also a place where they called staff members to, in order to train them on as executives. And L. Ron Hubbard had written at this is 1971. And L. Ron Hubbard had already written hundreds, if not thousands, of policy letters about how to run Scientology organizations. And they had been organized into the various divisions of the organization that they applied to. And that whole series of green books that you might have seen or can look up, those are the Organization Executive Course, OEC, the OEC course. You study all those policies across all the divisions of a Scientology organization, and you are an OEC grad. And that means you're somebody who really is supposed to understand kind of how the organization is supposed to operate as a whole, because you've kind of micro looked at every single nook and cranny of the organization and all of the policies and directives and rules and guidelines for how to run the organization. And those rules and guidelines are half-ass bullshit. I mean, I can say that now that I've been away from it all for enough time to see what's really important in organizations. And the stuff that's covered in those OECs is kind of ridiculous. Everything from policies on how to wash windows to how to write an invoice to how to deliver courses to how to organize auditing delivery. I mean, it's all in there. So that's your OEC. Then, for people who had done all of that, they were then introduced to this next higher level of training as administrators, and this was the Flag Executive Briefing Course. And these executives from around the world were called to train under L. Ron Hubbard, and he delivered these 12 lectures about if the analogy made was if the organization is a piano, the FEBCs are the ones who kind of learn how to play that piano. And there were 3 additional green books of policies put together called the Management Series, Volume 1, 2, and 3. And these consist of various policies organized by subject matter, not by division of the organization. So there is the PR series, which is L. Ron Hubbard's take on how to do public relations. You can imagine how good those policy letters are given how toxic the Church of Scientology is these days. They rigorously apply those PR policies, and you can see the result. There is the admin know-how series. There's the executive series. There's the data series. There's the finance series. There's a whole bunch of series of policies in these management volumes, and the FEBCs study them. They go through all of them. And what you see in this picture here, going back to this now, is them getting word clearing on those policies. And the way that they're getting word clearing is called Method 2. And if you ever thought studying was hard, you're not going to believe what I'm about to tell you. But every one of those people, those smiling, happy people who, and that's not a real photo, by the way, that's complete photo op photo. They're doing Method 2, which means you hold the cans and you read the policy out loud, or the lecture transcript out loud, or you listen to the lecture transcript on headphones. They don't show that here. And as soon as the meter responds or reacts, the needle, falls, the word clear stops and has you look up whatever word you just heard. And it doesn't matter whether you think you know the word or not. If the meter read, the assumption is you don't understand that word. And you're going to look it up. And that's Method 2. And in order to do that, you're going to have to first get Method 1, word clearing, which is an audited action. Come back to me for a second here. Method 1 is you actually go in an auditing session, and you're supposed to recall, and there's a list that is assessed on you, and they watch for the needle to respond. And you go back through your education, and you find every word you never understood in your education, and your backstory, and you clear it up. I did a method 1 word clearing on a aerospace engineer one time, and he said words I didn't, for concepts I didn't even know existed. I was blown away doing that on him. It was an interesting exercise, but completely unnecessary. I mean, it's just balderdash, right? It's just nonsense. So you do your method 1, and then you're open to getting this method 2 word clearing, where you're going to go through and read the whole thing or listen to the whole thing. And every time that meter reads, what word did you just read? What word did you just hear? And out come the dictionaries, right? And this can take hours and days and weeks to get through material doing it this way. Yeah, it's that bad. And so all these people, all these 800 students out there are having to go through all of L. Ron Hubbard's 12 lectures and all these policies. And according to this, they are getting method 2'd on them. Then the next time they go through it all, they have to do what's called a star rate. You heard me read that. That means you have to sit down with somebody else and get what's called a star rate checkout, where they're going to quiz you on the words and then quiz you on the facts or the data that's in the policy or in the lecture. And if you flunk, if you hesitate, right, like you could be, okay, it could be like this. A star rate could be like, okay, what's the definition of game? Right? I'm just randomly picking a word off the page here, right? And the guy who's getting the checkout, who's being checked out, if he goes, oh, game, let me see, flunk, right? You're supposed to say right off, oh, a game. A game consists of freedom, barriers, and purposes, and it's a thing people play in order to accomplish a goal. Well, that would be a Scientology definition for game, right? And if you don't rattle that off immediately, flunk, and you got to go back, you got to look up that word, clear it all up in a dictionary, and then you got to go restudy the entire bulletin again, right? From the place where the word was forward. And then you go get a checkout again. And they'll check you on that, and then they'll check you on a few other words, and then they'll ask you to demonstrate some things, right? To demonstrate that you know this policy or this bulletin inside and out, backwards and forwards. It's now a part of you. And again, I wish I was exaggerating here or engaging in hyperbole when I say this is how you indoctrinate people to a level where they identify with the material to such a degree that they can't stop thinking with it or about it or, seeing the world through it. This kind of process, method 2 word clearing, star rate checkouts. This is heavy indoctrination. This is not light grade indoctrination. Light grade indoctrination is here's a pamphlet, go read it. All right. No, we're going to make sure you understand every word of this. It shouldn't be nefarious, and yet it really kind of is, isn't it? It's kind of nuts. And this is how you make fanatical Scientologists, is they are just pounded into this data over and over and over again, right? And you're not done until you've passed, until you can rattle this stuff off with no lag, no hesitation, no ums or ers or I think or flunk. It's procedural, it's methodological, it's burned into you. That's what it means to be a Scientologist. It's tough. So these students here have to go through that material, method 2, then they got to star rate it all, then they get to go back and study it all again just for one more time through. And that's what they are doing at Flag right now. That's happening right now as I am live streaming to you. So we move forward to the next page here, and we see more pictures of these FEBC students. And now check this out. In addition to, you can see here in the top left, this clay demonstration. If any of you ever wondered what they're doing with clay or what those clay demos are about, that's what it looks like. And they are that big. You got to make them big. You can't make little tiny clay demos. You got to make them big. And you can see they've got these little containers there that they store the clay in to keep it soft and fresh. And this is another course room with these blue vest, aqua vested FEBC students. Definitely a step up from how it used to look, by the way. And another photo on the right there of students doing these checkouts and stuff. And the bottom picture is interesting, though, because here's the thing about the bottom picture is not only are these students there, these executive trainees, doing the training, they're also doing superpower. It says here in the caption, FEBC students buckle down until the data becomes instinctive. That's how they phrase it. We're going to train you until it's instinctive. As part of the program, every trainee also completes superpower. Now, superpower, it would take me way too long to explain all the ins and outs of it, but it's a very massive auditing and indoctrination program that covers, it's a very wide, sweeping thing. It covers ethics, it covers perception. If you remember from those articles years ago on Tony Ortega's blog, where you saw these devices that people would climb into, and these gyroscope type things that people would get into, and the smell and taste and sense perception drills and practice that people would do, that's one part of superpower. And you come off the other end of this superpower program, and these staff, I guess, are receiving it now, thinking you're a god. You come off that thing thinking you are the shit dug shittity. I mean, you are just amazing because you're super powered as a Thetan. Now, the funny thing is, another little alteration of David Miscavige's that is not noted anywhere here, of course, is that L. Ron Hubbard actually had a little bit of a different intention for his executive trainees. And back in 1971, when people would go to the boat to do the training, they would receive what are called the L rundowns. L10, 11, and 12. L stands for list. And these were very specialized rundowns that are still delivered in Scientology. In fact, they are delivered in Clearwater at Flag by the highest trained auditors in Scientology, the class 12 auditors. You can only do those levels as a Sea Org member. You can only do the auditor training to become a class 12 as a Sea Org member, and there's a handful of these people. L. Ron Hubbard personally trained a bunch of them. They're all gone. Karen de la Carriere is a class 12 auditor. She was trained by L. Ron Hubbard to deliver the L rundowns. And Hubbard insisted that the FEBC trainees get the L rundowns, not superpower. Superpower didn't even exist in 1971. It wasn't even a glimmer in his eye yet. But the L rundowns did. I wonder why it is that David Miscavige has made it that that these 800 staff members can be plowed through superpower, but can't get a class 12 auditor to audit them on the L rundowns. You don't think it would have anything to do with the fact that the L rundowns cost about $10,000 per block of 12 and a half hours of auditing? It's the highest paid, most expensive auditing in all of Scientology is to receive the L rundowns. Probably doesn't have anything to do with that, right? Or the fact that they don't have anywhere near enough class 12 auditors to deliver to 800 students. Nah, probably not a logistical matter at all. Anyway, just another little point where Miscavige has basically given the middle finger to L. Ron Hubbard in what he actually wrote he wanted done with Scientology. If you're not an old school Scientologist in Scientology these days, you have no hope of even knowing about this stuff. They've buried all this history. This is all gone, right? What L. Ron Hubbard really wanted for Scientology, David Miscavige has done away with all of that. Right. And I'm not saying in saying this that L. Ron Hubbard was some kind of saint or a good guy or that the L rundowns are really good, because they're not. They're just more indoctrination and bullshit. I'm just pointing out that what Miscavige keeps insisting he's doing to expand Scientology and make it big and better ain't even what the old man said to do. And track record-wise, Hubbard grew Scientology. Miscavige hasn't. Ever since Miscavige has taken over, it's just been going downhill. The only thing the guy accomplished for Scientology was tax exemption. All right, let's carry on here with going through this magazine. So you have this whole FEBC program. Here's another shot, by the way, of that same room on the right there. That's the same room that David Miscavige is giving that event in. That I think that's the Crystal Ballroom at Flag. And so that's taken from the very back row. That's as big as that room is. So when I said earlier there's like a few hundred people in there, that's seriously, that's it. And those are all of the executive trainees that they could pack in there. And here's another, let's go ahead and go to this one. Here's a big grand shot in the Clearwater building there. I think that's the Superpower building. There is a shot of probably as many of the FEBC trainees as they could get into one room, all with their arms crossed, trying to do a power pose there. I just thought that was kind of hilarious. So they're all standing there as though they're like the shit. And this is the final component to the grand equation for planetary clearing. And again, let me just comment real fast on the language thing here again, okay? The final component to the grand equation of planetary clearing. I mean, it sounds like Miscavige is solving the unified theory here. You know what I mean? Like he's uniting physics and Einsteinian, Newtonian, physics. Anyway, it's just kind of funny to me that the language is so grand and as though it's all so figured out. We have this equation, and now we've got the solution, and now we're going to have all the planetary clearing. It's so Hubbardarian. It's so Hubbard. I mean, this is the thing Miscavige really did learn from Hubbard, is keep over-promising and under-delivering and keep doing it and keep doing it and keep doing it, and somehow people will stick with you, and that's what's going on here. It's a whole magazine of over-promising and under-delivering. And all these poor schleps you see here in this picture, this used to be me. This used to be all of us. I mean, so many of us who are now speaking out, we were these people in this room kind of thing. We believed all of it at one point. We were fanatical. We all thought this was going to be the thing and we were going to save the world. And all those poor schleps standing there have no idea that they are part of something that is not only not going to do that, but is actually hurting people and destroying lives. That's what's so sad about this. But that is the next generation of Scientology executives all around the world is right there in that room. Yeah. Clearing the planet. All right. So let's see here. Okay. So now we get to the birthday game. So if that's the whole final component in planetary clearing, here's the expansion that these folks have had over the last 2 or 3 years, because they did a big catch up here. And this is all the winners from all the different leagues, all in one photo. And I swear to God, I think David Miscavige is photoshopped in there. I think he probably was really on stage, and I think they really did take his picture with everybody. But if you look from one picture to the next as we go through this, he doesn't change. And you notice how big and tall he is compared to everybody else. He's the same size as all these other people. So that means all these other people are really tiny people. And I don't think that's true. And I'm just conjecturing here. This is just a little side note, but I just think it's kind of funny that he does not really look proportional to the rest of the people on that stage. Okay. So what is the birthday game? Well, we talked about that already. Here's another shot of that hall. Again, big, huge spread. David Miscavige featured with everybody applauding him. And there's that, there's, of course, the requisite photo of L. Ron Hubbard there up on the stage as well. And now we're going to go into the birthday game wins. And there's this quote, right, from L. Ron Hubbard. So what really is a birthday game all about? You are giving me and yourselves another giant step on the road to a cleared planet. And someday, how many birthdays later, you'll give me and yourselves and all your friends a cleared planet. Yeah, so the idea here is all these people are working their fucking asses off. And you're going to see photos of some of them so that they can get this cleared planet, this total pipe dream, delusional reality that is never, ever going to happen. Not because I don't want the world to become better or I wouldn't like to see a world that is better, but because Scientology is pseudoscientific junk and it doesn't do what it says it does. So let's go through this. So first we have the missions, and the big international champion is Miscavige. I'm probably grossly mispronouncing that. I don't even know what country it's in, actually. Oh, Hungary. It's Hungarian. So this mission in Hungary, and a mission, real fast, a mission is the lowest level Scientology operation or organization that exists. It's run by a mission holder. It's basically a franchise of Scientology in the same way, same model as McDonald's franchise holders, right? Somebody buys the rights to use Dianetics and Scientology trademarks, and they open up their own place, and they pay the rent, and they hire some staff, and they try to make a go of it, and that is called a Scientology mission, okay? And here's the one from Hungary, and these guys were the winners of the birthday game. And I don't know, maybe Mark can comment on this. It has a bad rep in Hungary. That's interesting. I was going to ask you, Mark, is Scientology making a big impact over there in Hungary right now? I doubt it. But this shows the claim here is that this mission was the most expanding mission in all of the Scientology mission network for the last couple of years, or for 2020. That's the Mission League Championship for 2020. And, oh, yes, and then we move on to 2021, and it was Costa Rica. And, okay, thank you very much, Costa Rica. They position themselves for a win by entering the race as a newly ideal mission. So this is, not only are there ideal orgs, but there are also ideal missions, which have their own list of requirements, and they have to be in a nice building and all of that sort of thing. And you can see the kind of in the top right corner there, you can see this kind of nice signage behind them. United for Human Rights and Total Freedom. And apparently Costa Rica is taking the world by storm. Yeah, okay. And the big number, they present numbers here, okay, to demonstrate. Here we can go back to Miscavige there for a second. 8%, it says here on the right page, 8% of the city population has been reached with LRH books. I very much doubt that is true. What they probably did was took the total number of books that have ever been sold by this mission or in this area by anybody ever, and went, okay, what's the population of the town? Okay, 8%, good. Well, we sold that many books, therefore we've reached, and it's really not very accurate. In Costa Rica, 36,000 people educated about their human rights. Now, I'm just curious, if you'll indulge me for just a moment. There are 5 million people in Costa Rica as of 2021. 5.154 million people is the population of Costa Rica. So 36,000 of them have been educated on their human rights by Scientology. The most tragically ironic fact you could ever say about Scientology ever is that they are educating people on human rights. So that's Costa Rica's big claim to fame. And Bel Air mission, and that is in Florida. propel. Oh, I love this language. Okay, so the Mission League 2022 champion, Bel Air. I don't know if you can see that byline there. Propelled by the OT jet stream of flag, this powerhouse mission gallops to greatness with their eyes on the prize and their single-minded focus on expansion. How much expansion? 1,000 introductory service completions. 1,000 introductory service completions. Well, let's just check, since I'm keen on this today. Bel Air, as of 2021, has 17,000 people in it. So 1,000 intro service completions, which basically means somebody came by, took a ticket, did an OCA, said hi to a staff member. That's basically an introductory service completion for this level of Scientology. So again, hardly making a dent on the society around them, but it sounds so impressive. 1,000 service completions. Ooh, all right. And the grand champion for the missions is Bergamo. This is the big one here, the big winner. Let's see here. I believe this is in Italy. And they get a 2-page spread. This is the leader. This woman here is the head of this mission. And they get a 2-page spread for Bergamo. And so you can see some of the staff there, again, with the power pose, arms crossed. Aren't these guys amazing? And highest ever purification delivery, 2,145 service completions. And I love the mock construction pose here on the right with the hard hats as they're planning out, as the executives of the organization in their full outfits there are planning the construction of new quarters and facilities there. Yeah, that's quite something, right? The caption on that one says, once the Bergamo mission reopened, it was full steam ahead with delivery, and now, with renovations underway to double mission space, these grand champions will continue to expand service and no doubt will remain at the forefront of their league. Yeah, okay. Moving right along, that's the mission network in terms of the birthday game. Now this one, now we get to the orgs. Twin Cities. Oh, you fucking guys. So Twin Cities was the last place I was doing. Let me come back to me for a second here. So Twin Cities, Minnesota. Okay, Twin Cities, Minnesota is the epitome of the podunk, small, tiny, failing organization in Scientology. And yet they occupy a building of 90,000 square feet. It's huge. It used to be a science museum for kids. It's got gigantic, expansive spaces. There are something on the order of, I think it's 9 course rooms on one floor and like 10 on another, and 20 or 25 auditing rooms. It's a gigantic space. Little tiny staff, little tiny public. When I left, and I have it somewhere around here, when I left Twin Cities, when I left the Sea Org, I actually kept the list of active Scientologists in that area, and it was a list of 110 names for the 5-state area around Minnesota. It's Minnesota, the Dakotas, whatever the state is below there, and then over into Wisconsin. That region is the area that Twin Cities is responsible for. 110 people. And that was booming. That was like biggest ever. That was like more people were on service in Twin Cities when I was there than had ever been there before. Because that was what I was working on, was what other people were working on, and that's what we could produce, right? And here they are now, 10 years later, 2020 winners of the birthday game. And I looked at these pictures. I looked at these photos. Let's pop these back up here. I stared hard at the top picture there on the right, at this woman who's standing on the stage. I have no idea who she is. At this picture of people in the course rooms, you can see there the glass walls and the picture of the people, the students there. This is a total photo op right now, by the way. We never had that many students on course there. This is But the thing that really kind of blew me away about this is I don't recognize even one face of these photos. And I was literally knocking on the doors of Scientologists out in Twin Cities. I was recovering people left, right, and center out there. And none of them are still there. None. I don't know who these people are. I wonder, I kind of wonder whether these aren't Sea Org members sent out there. Because I don't know who they are. And I couldn't believe that in such a period of time that I've been gone, that they changed everybody. I mean, talk about revolving door. This is a place I am intimately familiar with. Twin Cities is not a place I had a passing familiarity with. Twin Cities is where I went right after I left the Sea Org. I lived there. And this is, like I said, I don't even know who these people are. So I was fascinated to see that they had won the birthday game. 1,200, the number of people onto org services. That is total bullshit. There is no way, and I'm telling you, there is no way that there are 1,200 people on service at that organization. It's a physical impossibility that happened in the last 10 years, that they have blown the doors wide open. Because I've had more than a couple eyewitness reports since I left there telling me the place was an ideal morgue, that nothing was going on there. The place is empty all the time. So talk about inflated hyperbolic bullshit. This really what took the cake for me. But moving right along here, we come to Kansas City, the birthday game winners for 2021. Same drill. I have no idea who these people are. This blonde on the stage there, I guess, is the executive director. I have no idea who she is. The staff there up on the top right are all standing up, I guess, on the roof of the building. Nice enough shot with them in all of their uniforms and everything, although I imagine in Kansas City, those uniforms are oppressively hot. I mean, having been to Kansas City, I don't know about you guys, but that was the hottest, most humid place outside of Florida I've ever been. I just could not believe. Yeah, exactly. Juliana, thank you for correcting me on that. Yeah, I definitely am off the rails because clearly over 10 years they've blown the doors open there. So yeah, Kansas City, the real chiefs are here in this ideal org, serving the city with solutions. Okay, and their big number, you can see 15,000 there. That is attended open houses and community events. 15,000. Really? Over what time period? Did you notice that time is not ever noted on these on these figures? Right? I mean, maybe since their inception, maybe ever since the beginning of Twin Cities, there have been 1,200 people on services. Maybe that's what that means. Because it certainly is not in just the last year. And in the year of 2021, there is 0.0% chance that 15,000 people walked through that building and partook of open houses and community events. There is no chance that is true. So I don't know if if they're just making up numbers or drawing these numbers out of a hat, or if they are just pulling them from history and justifying it that way. Come back to me for a second. Scientology has a really bad habit of dropping out the time, and Hubbard even comments on this as an outpoint, as something you shouldn't do, right? If you're gonna note a figure or note a statistic or note a fact, you should include when it happened. And so there's no time connected with this. It could be anything. The idea that Scientology has millions of members is only true if you look at their entire 70-year history of how many people have ever possibly walked into one of their buildings. Yeah, millions of people probably have walked into their buildings, but that doesn't mean they signed up for services and are active Scientologists right now. But that's what Scientology will claim. That's the way they flip and mess with the language and load the language and mess with the numbers. And they're always massaging those statistics, you know? And this is, but the thing is, of course, that I'm showing you this because this is what Scientologists are told. And it's really not too different from, you know, if you're only getting your facts from cable news, you know, Fox or MSNBC or something, it's the same drill. If you're focused just on that and that's your only source of information, they're curving data to you, man. They are not giving it to you straight, and they're not giving you the whole picture. This is a master class in how to do that. All right, let's carry on though, because there is some more. I'm not going to go on forever here, but there is some good stuff to show you here. All right, so we go through Kansas City. And then Budapest for 2022. And again, I will see if any commenters here, Mark or otherwise, are still on board from Hungary. You can let me know if Scientology is conquering the world over there. I somehow doubt it. But Budapest is the big winner for the international champions for 2022. And you can see there again the power pose on the top right. I mean, it's just, you know, wow, these guys are just so tough. Few students on course, few people walking around in a hallway, and that is our expansion of Scientology in Hungary. That's the best they could put together. So yeah, clearly they are taking over the world. And finally, we end up at the Class 5 League Grand Champion, Milano, Italy. And there is the executive director. Now again, there's that picture of David Miscavige. If you guys have been paying attention to him in all of these pictures, he looks exactly the same. Hand in his pocket. Yeah, his right hand is a little different from one picture to the next. I don't know. I'm not convinced. Either that or there are a bunch of very small people in Scientology. All right. Well, let's go ahead and flip to this one. And we go to the Sea Org League in the birthday game. Okay, so just to flip through this one real fast, here you can see the number of Sea Org members in Australia. This is the Advanced Organization and St. Hill, AOSH, of ANZO, Australia, New Zealand, and Oceania. That's what that stands for. And you can see there that is the Sea Org member there in the dress next to the trophy with the racing silks in her arm. She's the one who heads up that organization, and then the top right are all the Sea Org members posted in Australia. Basically, that's what that picture represents. And we flip over to the next page, and we have Africa. Okay, now Africa, just to kind of put things in perspective for y'all, Africa has 1.2 billion, with a B as in boy, 1.2 billion people are in the continent of Africa. And that crew right there are the guys who are going to clear and make OT all of Africa. Do you believe it? I don't. I don't think for a second that this group of people are making even the tiniest dent in the African continental population. AOSH Africa. Highest ever. This is cute. They don't even give you a number. It's just highest ever. OT level completions. That's what that is. That's the big figure for these guys is there is no figure. It's just highest ever. Does that mean they made 5 OTs? 10? 20? 30? 50? 100? 200? 1,000? 10,000? Clearly not. Clearly not. A number like that, they would definitely be showing off. So it's probably something on the order of about 20 or 30. But that is the birthday game winners. Second place winner is AOSH Africa. And then we go to the Sea Org Service Org Grand Champion, the United Kingdom. Yes, Alex, if you're still with us, the UK were the winners for the Sea Org League. And there's the guy who heads up the AOSH UK. In other words, if you go down to East Grinstead and you go to St. Hill Manor, that building houses, and there's a castle, a delivery building next to it that's sort of set up like a castle. And that facility, this guy right here in the glasses is in charge of. We don't know his name. We don't know the name of any of these people because they are not listed in this magazine. They don't even get their names recognized. They're lucky to get a picture with David Miscavige. And here we can see that building. There in the top left is the St. Hill Manor. And there are a bunch of people, probably about 200 or so, that they managed to wrangle up in a photo op, holding up a piece of paper signifying that they are now completions of some kind. 2,800 solo auditors and solo well-done auditing hours hit highest ever numbers. 1,154 auditors made. Oh my goodness, that sounds so unimpressive when you compare that with a UK population of 67 million people. 67 million. Oh, but we are really impacting society now with our 1,154 auditors made. Oh my goodness, 2,800 solo auditors. Wow, the UK will be OT in no time. Okay. Definitely driven that point home. So then we have now this is the Continental Liaison Offices. Okay, let me tell you guys about this real fast. So, hopefully we'll pick up on as I flip off, the comments go on and off on the screen there. The CLOs, or Continental Liaison Offices, are the management units that run those continental zones, okay? I worked at the CLO for the Western United States. It's at the same facility, the same base that the big blue buildings are at. There is a CLO in Anzo, and that's what this photo here shows. This woman on the stage holding the racing silks is the commanding officer for the CLO in Anzo. And so I showed you the photo of the AOSH Anzo. This photo in the top right are the management staff. That's the rest of the Sea Org that are in Australia. So between this photo and the other photo, that's it. That's the Sea Org members who are conquering Australia. Done, sir, they say in one of these photos here. Here we go. These Pan-Pacific warriors have no concept of on pause, quote unquote. They're all about clearing a continent and driving an Australasia all-ideal crusade. Sorry about that. I didn't expect that word to come at me. Australasia. I guess that's a word. And here's the number for you. Okay, 2,100 it says there on the screen there. You know what that 2,100 is? Years of Sea Org experience. Clearly, they are making a deep impact on Australasia with their 2,100 years of Sea Org experience. Oh my God. Okay, that is impressive. And if that wasn't impressive enough, as the second place winner, here is the second place winner again, CLO Europe. And I wanted to make a point on this one. So here is the Continental League second place winner, CLO Europe. There's the commanding officer of the CLO for Europe. Europe used to be our main competition for West US. Western United States is by far the most prosperous, most money-making, most populated Scientology continental area. In the West US, you have Los Angeles, you have Seattle, Portland, the Bay Area, major concentrations of Scientologists. And then on the East US, you have the Eastern Seaboard, but Flag is a kind of its own thing. It's not counted in the East U.S. figures because Clearwater and Flag is its own operation. So Europe used to be like a force to be reckoned with. And they actually listed here numbers. There are 48 city-level Class 5 orgs. There are 96 missions. And it says more than 1,000 groups and centers. Bullshit. There are not more than 1,000 groups and centers of Scientology all throughout Europe. That's inflated bullshit. But there are 96 missions and there are 48 Class 5 orgs. Those are figures you can probably believe to some degree, although I'll bet you half of those missions are closed most of the time. Missions are not open 24/7 like the city level churches have to be. Well, not 24/7, but morning to night. The orgs have to be open. The missions, you can have a mission and have it open 3 hours a week. And the missions have been kind of a nowheresville for many, many decades now. So CLO is interesting, though. The CLO Europe apparently is the birthday game winner for all this expansion they were supposedly having. The figure here, by the way, oh my God. Okay, check this out. So it says 1,000. You can see that number there on the right. That 1,000 is energy driving events held. Yeah, this is my impressed face. 1,000 energy-driven events held. Okay. I can make fun of these statistics all day long. I've probably beaten a dead horse at this point. But the point I wanted to make about Europe is, you know what we don't have in Europe right now are any YouTubers or ex-Scientologists speaking out, at least not in English, at least not that I'm seeing. And I would really, really, really love to see that. I would love to see some European representation. Alex is bringing the UK representation. Maybe we'll have some Canada representation at some point in the sort of ex-Scientology space. I would love to see some European representation here, and that was the point I wanted to make in bringing up CLO Europe, because it's a pathetic. I mean, again, look at these. Look at these pictures. That top right photo there. That's all the Sea Org members running Scientology in Europe. I mean, what is that? Maybe that's 100 people. What are they doing? They're doing nothing. They're shrinking faster than ever. That's what they're doing. And that is clearly the evidence that we see in all throughout this magazine. Now we can go to Africa. They were the grand champions, CLO Africa. So apparently, management units there in Africa are just taking Africa by storm. And that's the lady who heads up the Sea Org management of Africa. And here is a trying to be impressive photo of a bunch of people in yellow jackets. Excuse me. A VM movement. Okay, well, I don't know who all these people are. It doesn't really say. Over 600 Tools for Life seminars have trained thousands from every segment of society, including executives from 26 national departments of government. Jesus, I really hope that Scientology is not infiltrating the government of South Africa. But you can see on this spread here, the 10.3 billion square feet sanitized by a force of volunteer ministers. Jesus. Their bragging rights for winning the birthday game are that they cleaned. I wish I could make this stuff up. All right, so we're going to move on past the birthday game because we have the last bit to get into here, and that is Scientology TV. And this was kind of awesome. Because this was, again, future. Look at what we're going to do to blow off the socks of the world. If there is anything that Scientology has failed to impress with, it is Scientology TV. They have been in operation for 5 or 6 years now. I can't remember. I didn't look up when they started, but they have been on DirecTV and they have been broadcasting, nonsense. through their Scientology Media Productions facility, SMP, which is about a mile away from the Big Blue base. That is the new Golden Era Productions. Gold is, Miscavige wants nothing to do with it. They're just relegated to secondhand duty. And who knows what they're doing up there. I honestly have no idea, nor does anybody else. But in SMP, that's the place, the old KCET facility that they took over, and Miscavige invested millions and millions of taxpayer, tax-exempt dollars, I should say, to build up this facility to do what? Absolutely nothing. Nobody cares. The only people who watch it are those staff and public who are mandated to watch it. Well, Miscavige is doubling, tripling down on it now with this latest release. And so we have the new season of Scientology Network coming. And apparently this has already started as of 9 days ago. The new season began. And what does it consist of? Well, of course, the first thing it consists of is a big 2-page spread of David Miscavige and a little bit of text. As I mentioned, all throughout this magazine, this is glorification of David Miscavige. If that hasn't been clear yet, in thumbing through the pages of this, where he is featured on almost every page of this magazine, then I hope me pointing it out makes it clear, because that's all this magazine is about, is glorifying David Miscavige and coming up with puny, ridiculous, nonsensical numbers to reflect so-called expansion of Scientology around the world that does not exist. That's the pathetic state of Scientology these days. And we go here to what is up with Scientology TV. Well, they actually explain it all. They walk us through what the new season is going to consist of, and I thought y'all might find it relatively interesting. Meet a Scientologist, because, of course, we all know how popular those videos are. So here we have a cook, a photographer, a candlestick maker, I guess, some guy jumping out of a plane doing his Mission Impossible pose, and a guy doing a Dick Van Dyke impression down there as a chimney sweep. Okay, good deal. So fascinating individuals that they're going to focus on that nobody could give two fucks about. And then we go to Destination Scientology, another show that they are going to be featuring, where they are spin the globe with us and take a tour of our gleaming ideal orgs, where the local culture is on display along with stories of friendship and newfound freedom. All right, more Scientology propaganda from around the world as they go around. And here we can see Atlanta, Salt Lake City, Auckland. Okay, very, very nice. That's Destination Scientology. And then Voices for Humanity. All right, so this is where they get to basically pimp their front groups. We have the various symbols here. The cross is the VM symbol. The CCHR fist holding those the scales, I guess, of justice. I guess that's what that's supposed to be. Anyway, that's the CCHR logo, which is their anti-psychiatry movement. That is their big program to decimate and destroy psychiatry around the world. And we can all see every day what an impact that's making. Then we have the human rights with the dove, and the Youth for Human Rights, and the drug-free world. The Youth for Drug-Free World is the one on the bottom right there. So this is going to be Voices for Humanity, more shows that don't show anything interesting because they are not making any difference anywhere. Okay, then we go to... yes, this was interesting. Documentary showcase. Now, this interested me. Now, I think Mike Rinder had a blog article about this a year or so ago. And this one is documentary showcase. This is non-Scientology content being featured as filler on the Scientology channel. And they are basically paying indie filmmakers or buying properties from indie filmmakers to put up on their channel. And what, you ask? What could this compelling show, what could these shows be? Well, Documentary Showcase is a visual journey that showcases important issues and takes you on a tour de force of stories of courage and triumph. Uplifting, I'm just reading straight from the copy here. Uplifting tales artfully told. Recent additions to add to your watch list include Life Without Basketball, a story about an elite women's basketball star who goes from shattering records on the court to breaking down barriers on the international stage. And Losing Sight of Shore, a compelling narrative of a small group of women rowing their way across the Pacific in the challenge of their lives. Whoa. I can't wait. Oh my God, I can't wait. Then there is Operation Stay Well, a whole show about the Church of Scientology's COVID response, which you can see there, Scientologists in masks and gloves running around acting like they're making a difference, cleaning. They're cleaning the world, folks. Oh boy. All right. Then we come across to the 2-page spread of Freedom articles, which are somehow going to be featured on the Scientology TV channel. If y'all are on Twitter, and I invite you to check it out sometime, you should see some of what Freedom Magazine and the Stand League accounts tweet, because it is the most hate-filled, awful content I have seen on Twitter. It's 4chan level of awful. Attacking Mike, attacking Leah, attacking Tony, attacking reporter Yasser Ali, attacking anybody they want to who has anything bad to say about Scientology. That's what Freedom and the Stand League and OSA represent on social media. And here they have a 2-page spread about how they're going to take all these Freedom articles and learn what LRH has to say about the root of society's ills. One of the roots of society's ills is Scientology, and I doubt that they'll be reporting on that. And we come to L. Ron Hubbard in his own voice. Oh, you all know from listening to his lectures on YouTube how amazing L. Ron Hubbard's voice is. So I can't wait to see L. Ron Hubbard in his own voice, as well as Inside Scientology. Here's your this is a good one. Here's your all-access pass behind the scenes of the world's youngest, fastest-growing religion. Total lie. In 1-hour episodes, cameras travel into our state-of-the-art publishing and dissemination centers. Okay, so brag about the facilities Miscavige has been creating. There is the L. Ron Hubbard Library, where you're going to get even more of Hubbard's nonsensical lectures. And, of course, the ever-popular I Am a Scientologist. Because we all know that we can't wait to find out who else is a Scientologist. And we come to the 2-page spread, Our Story, Our Network, Our Time, Direct TV, Channel 320. Well, I'm sure we'll all be tuning in. And in closing, another shot of Miscavige, full page, looking wise with his fingers posed, as he talks about the need for planetary clearing and, the bright future that Scientology has ahead of it. It's not often I get to just sit here and ridicule and rant like this, but I just had to take the opportunity today because this is a window into what Scientology is right this second. And it's not every day that we get that, And I really appreciate being sent this stuff. I don't need to be sent lots of it, okay? I'm not going to do this every week or anything. I have definitely, shot my wad with this. But this is kind of what I wanted to give you guys, is a little window into what Scientologists are told, how they're told it, how it's presented to them, and more importantly, showcase how it is that this destructive cult is all about one dude, David Miscavige. That's it. That's all it's for. That's all it's about. All this hard work by all these thousands of people who are still trapped in this group are all for naught. They're just little chess pieces. They're just little pawns being moved around on a board by Miscavige. using the words of L. Ron Hubbard to inspire and awe and create euphoria in people. And somehow, I guess he's his own speechwriter now because Dan Sherman isn't around to write his speeches anymore. So, yes. So that is Scientology as it is right now. It's pathetic. And you can see exactly how and why it's pathetic. So when we say, us critics, and you see across the channels and various things, when we tell the stories and we're railing against the abuses and we're talking about the nonsense, it's not like it's really hard to decipher the nonsense. Anybody can do it. Any Scientologist, anytime, can open their eyes and look and see all the bullshit that surrounds them. And a lot of them are and do see it. And at my estimation, my own personal subjective thinking on this is that it's probably about half really hardcore members, maybe a third to a half. And the rest of the people that are in Scientology right now are on cruise control. They're just there because of inertia, or because they don't want to lose their family or their connections or their business partner or their wife or their kids. You notice a lot of young faces in those executive trainees. That's second gens, third gens, fourth gens. That's not new Scientologists coming in, fresh off the street. That's family, and the old timers can see through a lot of the bullshit. But what are they going to do? Their kids are at Flag. Their kids are in the Sea Org. So they're stuck. And they just kind of do the minimum and kind of float along. And that's why the whole message of this entire magazine and this entire effort from them right now is, we're back. We're bigger than ever. We've always been expanding and growing, right? Right? And, and the old timers look at that and go, come on. They know that Miscavige is full of shit. But it's easier to stay in than make some gigantic sacrifice and jump out. Why ruin their lives, right? Why mess up their social networks? Because that's what would happen. We all know that's what happens when you leave that group. So it's easier to just stay in and keep going. And that's why I say that Scientology, as far as I'm concerned, is really just floating on inertia. You got your hardcore fanatics, your Sea Org members, your diehard OTs who would take a bullet for Miscavige, and you have the coasters, right? The mentally out but physically in types. Okay. And that's how I see Scientology these days. And it's a tiny pipsqueak operation. And none of us would really be paying a whole lot of attention to it if it weren't for Tom Cruise and John Travolta and the other celebrity members who kind of keep it alive in the media to one degree or another, and who kind of help keep it going between them and the Tom Cummins of the world, the whales, the Duggars, and the big fish that Miscavige has reeled in around him. That's what keeps this group going. That's it, And that's why I really try to only talk about it and use it as a case study now. As like, okay, here's how we can easily talk about cultic principles, coercive control, mind control, thought reform. All this really nasty stuff that people get up to, it's all built into the DNA of Scientology, just like it's built into the DNA of the Mormon Church, of the Jehovah's Witnesses, of the Unification Church, the Moonies. Oh, you want to talk about a group that is having much more destructive impact on the world than Scientology, we could talk about the Moonies. Oh, that group is insane. The labor trafficking and sex trafficking that goes on in that puts Scientology to shame. But we can understand the Moonies a lot better if we understand Scientology. And so that's why Scientology makes such a great case study for us. All right. So that all being said, guys, I think we're about ready to wrap up today. And I think we've kind of taken a pretty good hard look at the current state of Scientology and where it's at and where it's going, which is nowhere, and where it expects to go, which is to take over the world. But, where is it going to go? Nowhere. It's really just not a thing. Except for this very, very fanatical group of people. And that's a shame. And that's why we need to continue, of course, in exposing these abuses and in exposing the nonsense that goes on there, and just the bad thinking, the lack of thinking, because it's all about emotional control and moral control. It's about owning people's morality. And that's a really big component of this too, is, people's ideas of right and wrong and good and bad have everything to do with their adherence to a destructive cult dogma. So that's kind of how it all breaks down. I want to thank you, Raymond, for that super chat. Thank you very much for that. Very appreciated. This channel runs on your support, folks. So if you found this show today entertaining, informative, and educational, then I will encourage you to check me out on Patreon. Sign up. Buy me a cup of coffee every month. Every little bit helps. You can also, of course, contribute through PayPal. There have been some incredibly generous donations coming in through there. I really, really appreciate everybody who sends me support and love through PayPal or through Venmo. And of course, you can now sign on as a member of this channel through YouTube. There is a join button right below this video on YouTube, and you can contribute a little tiny bit through the YouTube platform if you don't want to sign up through PayPal or Patreon. All right, folks, thanks for coming around and watching. I really appreciate your support and your viewership. And let's go ahead and wrap up for today. You will see me again on Friday evening for our Critical Conversation show. All right, till then, bye-bye.